This dossier is submitted with the intention of clarity, integrity, and care. The work presented here was developed through a deliberate and transparent process that begins with the establishment of a clear legal and ethical framework before any conclusions are drawn. Our approach is grounded in long-standing legal principles commonly referred to as the maxims of international commerce and natural law, which emphasize truth, accountability, good faith, and the protection of the innocent. These principles have historically existed to prevent abuse of power, reduce distortion, and ensure that law serves justice rather than privilege. By working within this framework, and with the assistance of artificial intelligence as an analytical tool, we aim to reduce the risks of human error, unconscious bias, emotional pressure, and manipulation that can arise when individuals are required to carry the full burden of articulating uncomfortable truths alone. Artificial intelligence is used first to organize, cross-reference, and analyze large volumes of material in a consistent, non-coercive, and time-efficient manner. Human review and fact-checking then follow. This sequence is intentional. It allows the law, evidence, and oversight findings to speak for themselves before personal interpretation is applied. In doing so, responsibility is shared, transparency is increased, and no single individual is placed in a position of undue pressure or exposure for taking an initial step toward accountability. Umbrella Grape Solutions and the UGS Common Law Church exist to support this kind of ethical process. Our purpose is not to favor wealth, influence, or status, but to restore lawful balance and protection for those who are vulnerable, unheard, or harmed by systemic failure. We believe true law exists to protect the innocent, to encourage responsibility, and to make resolution possible without fear. Jake Clarke, the author of this dossier, has approached an exceptionally sensitive and distressing matter with care, restraint, and respect for all those affected. With the assistance of AI, he has focused strictly on documented procedural realities rather than narrative, speculation, or accusation. This work recognizes that fear, confusion, and avoidance often arise in situations where people do not know how to acknowledge or address what has gone wrong. Our position is that accountability and healing are not opposites. The first step in any meaningful resolution is acknowledgement, undertaken compassionately and with safety for all involved. As a global society, and in light of wider developments across political, institutional, and cultural arenas, it is both reasonable and necessary to revisit certain disturbing cases calmly, lawfully, and without dehumanization. This process is not about blame for its own sake. It is about creating conditions in which the right thing can be done without individuals feeling isolated, threatened, or destroyed for speaking truth. When analysis is conducted methodically and independently first, and then verified by people, the pressure to be the first voice is removed. The law remains the law, but it is applied with fairness, proportion, and care. This cover note is submitted in good faith, with the sincere intention of supporting truth, accountability, healing, and the restoration of trust in lawful process. Kaylee Ainov. On behalf of Umbrella Grape Solutions and the UGS Common Law Church. Partner to Jake Clarke. The HAMPSTEAD investigation. A systemic failings dossier. Based on official oversight findings of the Independent Police Complaints Commission, IPCC. 2015 and 2016 determinations. Prepared by Clarke. 1. Executive Overview. This dossier documents a pattern of serious procedural failures in the Metropolitan Police Service's handling of the 2014 HAMPSTEAD investigation, as formally identified by the IPCC 2015 decision, and the IPCC 2016 decision. These two statutory oversight findings, which remain legally binding, establish that 1. The original investigation was incomplete. 2. The internal professional standards investigation was inadequate. 3. The first reinvestigation was also inadequate. 4. A second reinvestigation ordered in 2016 appears not to have been conducted. 5. Oversight directives remain unfulfilled more than 10 years later. This dossier argues, firmly and within lawful boundaries, that the investigation into the HAMPSTEAD allegations has never been completed to the standard required by law, policy, or the IPCC itself. This represents a systemic failure rather than the actions of any individual officer. 2. The oversight documents, what they are and why they matter. The Independent Police Complaints Commission, IPCC, was the statutory watchdog for police conduct prior to 2018. Its determinations are legally binding, authoritative, and subject to mandatory compliance by the police force concerned. The IPCC determinations issued in 2015 and 2016 are not opinion, are not speculation, and are not based on external advocacy. They are formal legal findings grounded in documentary evidence, interviews, police records, procedural standards, and statutory complaint regulations. Both determinations concluded that the Metropolitan Police Service's handling of the case required reinvestigation. 3. Investigation timeline, documented failures. 2014. Criminal investigation, 12 days. The Metropolitan Police Service opened the investigation on the 5th of September, 2014. Closed the investigation on the 17th of September, 2014. The IPCC recorded that major lines of inquiry were abandoned. Medical evidence was not followed up. Digital devices were not seized. No arrest was made despite recorded grounds. Multiple known addresses were not searched. Professional assessments were not obtained or logged. The investigation lacked adequate documentation and rationale. The closure of such a serious investigation after 12 days was identified as highly irregular. 2014 to 2015, complaints submitted by the mother. The complainant submitted Complaint Letter 1 on the 6th of October, 2014, and Complaint Letter 2 on the 15th of May, 2015, consisting of a 25-page supplementary complaint. These complaints raised issues relating to procedural failures, safeguarding concerns, and evidence handling. 2015, Directorate of Professional Standards Investigation. The Metropolitan Police Directorate of Professional Standards, DPS, produced a 5-page report. Failed to address the majority of complaint points. Included irrelevant material that undermined the complaint. Omitted critical investigative questions, and provided no substantive analysis. IPCC outcome in 2015. The appeal was upheld. The DPS investigation was declared inadequate. A full reinvestigation was ordered. 2016, first reinvestigation. The reinvestigation was conducted by an officer involved in the original criminal investigation, creating a conflict of interest. Failed to address major complaint points. Repeated many of the original investigative omissions. Misrepresented or misunderstood key evidence. Failed to properly assess concerns relating to ABE interviews. Did not examine contradictions between officer accounts. Did not investigate evidence handling issues. Did not explore discrepancies in the medical timeline. IPCC outcome in 2016. The appeal was partially upheld. The reinvestigation was declared insufficient. A second reinvestigation was ordered. The new investigating officer was required to have no prior involvement in the case. 2016 to present. There is no evidence that the first reinvestigation was remedied, the second reinvestigation was commenced, or the IPCC's mandatory directions were fulfilled. 4. Procedural failures identified by the IPCC. The following failures are drawn directly from the IPCC's 2015 and 2016 findings. 4.1 Inadequate investigation. The IPCC concluded that the investigation was incomplete, poorly documented, lacking justification, and deficient in pursuing required lines of inquiry. 4.2 Failure to pursue key evidence. The IPCC identified failures to obtain medical records, request professional assessments, seize digital devices, retrieve CCTV footage, interview relevant individuals, search known addresses. These are basic investigative requirements. 4.3 Arrest-related failures. Police records indicated that arrest criteria were met. However, no arrest was made, no clear rationale was documented, and reinvestigations failed to justify the decision. 4.4 Mishandling of medical evidence. The IPCC found that medical information was initially treated as significant. Officers received relevant medical information early. There was no explanation for why this evidence was not pursued. Inconsistencies existed between officer accounts. This constituted a serious procedural failure. 4.5 ABE Retraction interview failures. The IPCC identified leading questions, pre-interview discussions about retraction, absence of recorded notes, failure to respect a child's request to stop, pressure to confirm retractions, incomplete application of ABE guidance. The IPCC explicitly stated, "In my opinion, this is inappropriate." 4.6 Evidence handling concerns. The oversight findings raised concerns regarding inconsistent statements about viewing disclosure recordings, inadequate explanations for CCTV failures, possible loss or non-preservation of evidence, absence of documented rationale. 4.7 Professional standards failures. The IPCC found that the DPS failed to address major complaint points, produced an inadequate investigation, inserted irrelevant material, failed to apply investigative reasoning, mishandled the complaint process. As a result, the IPCC ordered the entire review to be repeated by a new investigator. 5. Core issue. A legally mandated reinvestigation remains outstanding. The record demonstrates that the original investigation was inadequate. The professional standards investigation was inadequate. The first reinvestigation was inadequate. A second reinvestigation was ordered by the IPCC. There is no evidence that it was carried out. This is a systemic issue with implications for public trust, legal compliance, safeguards, procedural integrity, accountability, and the credibility of oversight mechanisms. This dossier does not seek to prove or disprove the original allegations. It concerns compliance with lawful process. 6. Summary of systemic failures. The investigation was too brief, insufficient, incomplete, poorly documented, not reinvestigated despite binding orders, compromised by conflicts of interest, missing steps required by policy. All findings originate from the official oversight body. 7. Required actions. The IPCC, now operating as the Independent Office for Police Conduct, IOPC, must 1. Acknowledge the outstanding reinvestigation order. 2. Appoint an independent investigator with no prior involvement. 3. Review all unresolved complaint points. 4. Ensure compliance with statutory duties. 5. Provide formal confirmation of actions taken. 8. Closing statement. This dossier documents that the Metropolitan Police did not conduct a full investigation. The professional standards review was inadequate. The reinvestigation was inadequate. A second reinvestigation was ordered. There is no evidence that it occurred. These unresolved procedural failures require formal resolution.